Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Get Your Popcorn podcast. This week, we are doing The Princess Bride. A couple things I'm going to start off with. I'm recording this 2 days after the murder of Alex Preddy in Minnesota. Veterans Affairs ICURN, who was gunned down in the streets and had a clip unloaded into his back when he was trying to assist a woman who had just been pepper sprayed, despite what Kristi Noem and the Trump Organization and Caroline KKK Levitt are saying. There's video footage available. The man is not a domestic terrorist. He had no weapon in his hand. His last words were, "Are you okay?" I've known many nurses in my life, and they're trained to de-escalate violent situations all the time and never using violence in order to do it. That man was trained to be able to help and de-escalate without any use of violence. Nurses see violence every single day. Part of being a nurse, that you see chaos, and the immediate instinct is to help. That man was honoring his profession to his last words. Are you okay? My heart breaks for what's happening in the States. I've been talking about this. I know all of us in this Trump administration have just been, watching it from afar, just been horrified. If every week I have discussed this, I've seen so much commentary on, well, we didn't know he was going to do this. Well, dude, there was a bunch of us when he was in 2016 when he was running that were like, don't vote for this man. He's a Nazi. And we got called dumb and woke and libtard and all that stuff. But I mean, I also don't want to discourage anyone. If you're finally waking up and seeing that this man is evil, better late than never. Like, come on. You gotta haul out a little bit that some white people are finally starting to wake up, because white people are now dying. But the reality of this has been longstanding for people of color. It's all just so horrible. I mean, did anybody else ever think they'd be scrolling through their phone watching just the federal government assassinate people point blank in the street, and then have that same government turn around and call those people domestic terrorists and then praise the federal officers that did that? Not in my lifetime. I don't know about you, but I really absorbed when we learned about World War II and propaganda and Nazi. And when I read Never Again, fucking absorbed it. And there's so much suffering in the world right now. And it's in our faces on our phones, which I think is in some ways good, because you can't look away. Don't not think about it. But it is an absolute mindfuck to be witnessing. And also, by the way, any content creator, any music artist, any celebrity right now, like, that isn't talking about this, just know where they stand. Silence it's a hard stance at a time like this, a hard stance. So, I mean, we've seen some more people come out this week and talk about it. I just saw Ariana Grande, Stephen Curry. I mean, there's obviously always celebrities that are always standing in the right spot. Jane Fonda, Mark Ruffalo, Javier Bardem. Guys, don't support this. Don't give your money to people that are supporting this. Unfollow them and use whatever platform you have. I mean, here's the thing too, like, if you're white, a lot of the work that needs to be done needs to be uncomfortable for you. You need to have difficult conversations with people in your life, and you need to be willing to be like, because you are who you choose to be with and surround yourself with. It says something about where you are politically too. And I have removed people from my life that support this shit or downplay how bad it is. This can't be something that is tolerated. Man, like, because this is going to be in textbooks too. And there's going to be classrooms full of kids that read this and go, how did this happen? And yes, it happened because evil people perpetrated this. But the large group of things that happened is because nobody did anything. Nobody said anything. They just let it happen. And it reminds me so much of this little video I had to watch in high school history. And I think it's from the 70s, and it's a teacher who did this experiment with her class, and she, sorts the kids into blue eyes and brown eyes. And I believe she praises the brown-eyed students. I might have it backwards, or praises the blue-eyed students, and then, makes digs at the brown-eyed children. And eventually, through like literally nothing other than the own teacher's propaganda, is this a small social experiment. the blue-eyed students begin to turn on the brown-eyed students. And that's what's happening. The people, I'm going to put it in quotations, illegal immigrants, which is undocumented people, there's nothing wrong with them. And notice how Trump is only going after one shade of immigrant. Like, his wife doesn't seem worried. When his wife was here on a travel visa initially and was working as a model, by his own legislation, his wife is illegal. He doesn't really seem worried about that. It is a disguise for racism. That is what it is, full stop. He's also going after blue states. There are more undocumented people in Texas than there is in Minnesota, but his political opponents are in Minnesota. And also the United States government, you can put me on your list if you're listening to this. Put me on your list. It's so sad. And it also makes me think so much about, there's a different experiment that, again, I watched during this bigger study period of World War II. I think this was in university, and watching, there's a kind of a two-way thing, and a person is being told to administer shocks to the person next to them. I can't remember for what sort of experiment, but they can't see the other person because the other person is not really being shocked, but they don't know that, and they're being given directions by another person. Turn it up, shock them harder, and people will go so far just by being told by someone with authority to shock them. And that's part of what's happening too. It feels odd as a content creator, and I'm going to talk about a movie, The Princess Bride, for instance, which feels like such a hard left pivot from where we're at now. And I don't know, I re-released an episode this week, which was the day after Alex Preddy was shot, because I just I just don't even know how to do this. It just feels, I don't know if inappropriate is the time, but it just feels odd to be discussing film at a time. But then I think about how art is political and always has been political. And so I need to keep talking about it. I think about a quote from Dan Savage, which is he's talking about the AIDS crisis in the 80s and the 90s. And he says, during the darkest days of the AIDS crisis, we buried our friends in the morning, we protested in the afternoon, and we danced all night. And it was the dance that kept us in the fight because it was a dance we were fighting for. And so that's why I'm choosing to continuing to do some of this content creation stuff and continue to talk about movies and art that makes me feel happy and laugh, and art that makes me sad and cry, and art that makes me look at the world around me and reflect, and art that makes me look inward and want to change and be better. And just, there's so many different things that I think about now, and so many examples of media, hope, and during this time. And we have to keep talking about it. We need to keep talking, and we need to keep dancing, and don't let them break you. Don't let them break you. In Shawshank, when Andy Dufresne locks the guards out and he turns on the music, and then he gets thrown in solitary after, and he's okay because the music's in here, and in here, he says. So, man, like, they can't take the music from you. And I just think we've seen so many examples through film, and like down to like cartoons, man, A Bug's Life, Zootopia 2. And then we've got, things like Star Wars and The Hunger Games and Harry Potter. And, then we've got we've got Inglourious Bastards, like all these different examples that we've been watching. And like, those are like largely kids movies other than Inglourious Bastards, but I did watch it as a teenager, where it's just fight back, and there's strength in numbers. And like, I'm from Canada and I'm talking about the States, but man, there's a lot of really fucking scary people up here too who have some really fucking scary ideals and really fucking like Trump. Like, I know in Canada we have this like reputation of being like really nice, and some of us are, but we have a lot of really, really scary, racist, horrible, transphobic people that are a part of our elected government too, who like Trump, who go and visit Mar-a-Lago, who are involved in separatism. We have some really terrifying people in this country too. And this shit scares me for you guys, and scares me because it spreads. And like, we have to, as the people, stay together and like, don't look around at your neighbor and think about what's different about them. Fucking grab onto each other. And like, from afar, like, it's not just me. I see this all over TikTok, different countries. Man, like, we're with you too. And like, there are protests in our streets for you guys. I don't really know how to pivot here to the Princess Bride. I really don't. But I can't not talk about this shit. Like I said, art is political, film is political. I can't not talk about it. It would be disingenuous. And one day my kid is going to look at me and she's going to say, well, what did you do? And I don't want to tell her I sat and watched. I want to confidently be able to tell her that I contacted my representatives, which I did, advocated in my own personal life, removed people from my life that had hateful values, refused to stand next to people, refused to have Thanksgiving dinner, refused to acknowledge grandparents that support this shit. I don't care how long you've been in my life. You want to support Trump? Get out. You want to support ICE? Bye. And talk about it on here. I don't have a massive platform, that's for sure, but I'm listened to on every continent. That's something that this is just horrific. And so that's what I have to say off the top. It's all still feeling pretty raw. I think there's something about watching a nurse be killed that just hits really deep, I think, for a lot of people, because nursing is the most trusted profession. And it's a profession literally dedicated to the service of others and the protection of others and caring of others in the worst moments. Every single person has a story of a nurse that made a massive positive impact in their life. Nurses hold hands of the dying and the sick, regardless of gender or race, sexual identity, religion. Your nurse is there for you always, always. In the middle of the night, after a car crash, you have cancer, your kid dies, whoever, the guarantee the person sitting there holding your hand is your fucking nurse. And we watched one of them get gunned down in the street, whose last words were, "Are you okay?" And then turn around and watch this administration lie. There's footage. I watched this man die on TikTok. And then KKK Caroline is coming out here and lying about the footage. The most matronly 28-year-old in the whole world, by the way. She's younger than I am. I know I don't look, and I don't even look good for my age. Carolyn, my God, try a moisturizer. Just throwing it out there. Moisturizer, girl. And calm down on the bronzer isn't contour, dude. Anyway, thank you to everybody who supports me here on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music podcasts or TikTok or whatever. And the film community, it's a really warm place and it's a really welcoming place and a really open space. I have to have nothing but praise for the film talk community. I've seen so many creators speak out, so many big and small, and not just recently. Their film community has been talking the whole time. And I'm so proud to be a part of the community. I'm so proud of the film community. Fuck, guys, this is just crazy. So I am going to have to pivot to The Princess Bride because, like that quote said, it was the dance that kept us fighting. So let's talk about a film that makes us fucking happy. And of course, if we're talking about The Princess Bride, of course it has to be a little sad again. Obviously, rest in peace, Rob Reiner, one of the greatest directors to ever do it. Thank you to Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Reiner, who literally changed cinema, their love story. When Harry met Sally, when Rob Reiner was directing it, he met Michelle. And originally, Harry and Sally were not supposed to end up together. And because Rob met Michelle, he believed in love again, and so he changed the ending so they do. So both Michelle and Rob changed the face of cinema forever with their love, and I just think that's so beautiful. And so rest in peace to both of them. Such a tragic ending to two people who seem to be so wonderful in their own right. The outpouring of love from people who cared about them was pretty wonderful to see. Fuck, dude. Crying on the internet. Accurate assessment of the high school bullies that called me a loser. You guys are right. I'm a fucking loser. Cried on the internet. The Princess Bride is one of my very favorite films of all time. It's my go-to if I'm sad to throw on. I just think it's the ultimate movie to watch as a family. It's family friendly. There's a love story. There's adventure. There's action. It's funny. It's sweet. It's romantic. It's everything. It's everything you could want in a film. It's excellently cast. It's expertly directed. The acting is lovely. Like, it just is so, so fun. This film was obviously directed, as I said, by Rob Reiner. It has a very interesting episode, actually, of the What Went Wrong podcast, which was one of my favorites, where they talk about the production of this film. So I definitely recommend going to check out the episode What Went Wrong on the making of this film. So this is Rob Reiner's third film after Spinal Tap and Stand By Me, and it's based on a book by William Goldman. He also was the screenwriter for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, All the President's Men, Marathon Man, Chaplin, the list goes on. There's also a rumor out there that he ghost wrote Good Will Hunting, but I don't think that that's true. I think he just did a punch up of one of the original drafts of it. But that's a story for another day. So this film stars Carrie Elwes as Wesley, Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya, Chris Sarandon as Prince Humperdinck, who used to be married to Susan Sarandon, Christopher Guest as the Count. He's married to Jamie Lee Curtis. Wallace Shawn as Vizzini, Andre the Giant as Fezzik, Fred Savage as the grandson, Robin Wright as Buttercup, Peter Falk as the grandfather, Peter Cook as the clergyman, Mel Smith as Albino, Carol Kane as Valerie, and Billy Crystal, who steals the show as Miracle Max. During the production of this film, there is a number of different challenges, including various injuries. There's a lovely story about between Mandy Patinkin and Carrie Elwes that, of course, they had to do fencing training in order to learn their sword fight for the film. And Mandy Patinkin, being the ever-prepared actor that he is, did train before they arrived to their first day on set. And of course, Carrie Elwes was like, oh, we're going to train on set, which I just think is very Mandy Patinkin. Also, Andre the Giant struggled quite a bit through this production. English is not his first language, so often Rob Reiner would say the line and then he would just repeat it back to him. He also struggled with a lot of chronic pain issues, so they had to maneuver a lot of different things, a lot of ropes and stuff like that for him to be able to hold certain people. Just a lot of injuries. I think the one where he catches Robin Wright from the tower when she jumps, she was on wires because it was just too much for his spine. He also had a bit of a drinking problem, which again, they talk about a lot on that What Went Wrong episode. So I don't want to steal too much from that episode. I'll just give you a little brief summary and recommend you go check out What Went Wrong. This film made $30.8 million on a $16 million budget, so not really a success because generally, advertising budgets are about what the production budget is a lot of the time for films. However, this found its legs on home media and had crazy VHS sales, which is how I first saw The Princess Bride. This came out in 1987, so I wasn't born for a little while longer. But when I first watched it, it was because my family owned a VHS of it. Reception of this film was overwhelmingly positive. Rotten Tomatoes currently has it at a 93%. Letterboxd is a 4.1. I gave it a full 5 stars. I love this movie. Roger Ebert gave it a 3.5 out of 4, saying he's smacking their lips by a certain true innocence that survives all of Reiner's satire, and also it does have kissing in it. There's a few fun stories about some surprise fans. Apparently, John Gotti, Mobster's crew, very much enjoyed it. One time when Rob Reiner was walking out of a restaurant, he was stopped by a crew of kind of 6 of Gotti's henchmen in front of a limo, and one of them yelled at him, "Hey, you killed my father, prepare to die." And then he said, "The Princess Bride, I love that movie." And then apparently Pope John Paul II told Reiner it was a very good film, very funny. This was only nominated for 1 Academy Award for Storybook Love, but it lost to I've Had the Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing. So the film is set up in a framework device, and it's set up with a child who is sick, and his grandfather's come over to look after him and to read him a story. He doesn't want to have a story read to him. He doesn't seem to want to spend time with his grandfather, but slowly over the course of the book, he becomes more interested. And that line that Roger Ebert is referencing is when the grandfather first pulls out the book and the grandson says, "Is there kissing in this?" So the story starts off with Princess Buttercup. She's a young, beautiful woman who lives on this farm. And there is a farmhand named Wesley, who frankly, she's pretty rude to in the beginning. And every time she asks him to do something, he says, "As you wish." She refers to him only as farm boy. And then slowly there seems to be some chemistry developing, and then they fall in love. But he decides that he needs to go overseas to make some money so that they can afford to get married. But then she receives word once he's left that the dread pirate Roberts has attacked his ship and there are no survivors. So she thinks he is dead. We then jump forward 5 years, and Buttercup has been kind of forced against her will to be engaged to Prince Humperdinck. But right before the wedding, she is kidnapped by a Sicilian, Vizzini, and all of his henchmen. And this is where we get the story I like. This beginning, this part of the story is like my favorite part of the story. And then we get his henchman, Fezzik, that's Andre the Giant. We get Inigo Montoya, that's Mandy Patinkin. He's a swordsman. His whole mission in life is his father has been killed by the six-fingered man, and he wants his revenge. And they're being pursued by a man we don't know. He is in all black. He's got a mask and he's also got a sword. And then, of course, they're also being pursued by Prince Humperdinck and the Count. So they're all climbing up these cliffs. Inigo stays at the top to battle the man in black, and Vizzini and Fezzik and Buttercup keep going. And this is where we have this awesome little battle between Inigo Montoya and the man in black. And it's funny, they have at first, Inigo helps the man in black up because he's kind of struggling to get up the cliff. And then they have this little moment where they sit and kind of chat and learn each other's stories. And Inigo explains his thing. He says his line many times, "My name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father. Prepare to die," which is something my entire family will just say to each other randomly all the time, particularly me and my dad. We just will drop that for no reason. It's like a vocal stem my whole family has. And so they have a little battle, and eventually the man in black wins. And then he keeps going. And then the next person he stopped with is Fezzik. And Fezzik is essentially hiding behind this rock, ready to hit him with the rock when he comes around the corner. But then the man in black and him kind of have it out a little bit. And for a while, I mean, it's funny, just based on their size difference alone, and eventually the man in black chokes out Fezzik. And then he keeps running. And he runs into Vizzini, who's sitting there with Buttercup, who is blindfolded. And they're playing, he essentially has two glasses, and one is poison and one is wine. And, it's sort of this physical comedy, almost slapsticky kind of gag of which glass the poison is in. Very, very cartoony, very Scooby-Doo almost. And the man in black tricks Vizzini and he drinks the poison. And so he takes Buttercup and they're running away, and she accuses him of being the Dread Pirate Roberts and that he kills Wesley. That he was the one that killed Wesley, and she shoves him down the hill. And while he's rolling, he shouts, "As you wish." And she realized that, no, the Dread Pirate Roberts and Wesley are actually the same person. And so she goes tumbling down the hill after Wesley. And then they realize, they're reunited, and then they have to try and escape because, of course, she is still being pursued by Prince Humperdinck. And then they make their way to flee as they're being pursued because the Prince Humperdinck and the Count are right behind them, and they see. So they decided to go into the fire swamp because apparently nobody's ever made it out before. And there's some real gross stuff in there, including this disgusting giant rat thing that Wesley has to wrestle with. It's so yucky. And it's during this point that Wesley explains that the Dread Pirate Roberts is not actually just one person, that you just fulfill the role, and when you're ready to be done, you bestow the role onto somebody else. And that Wesley explains that he is ready to pass the title onto somebody else and wants to marry Buttercup. As they're exiting the fire swamp, they are kind of headed off by Prince Humperdinck and the Count, and they are both kind of cornered, and they're going to kill Wesley. And Buttercup says, "Well, I'll go with you and I'll marry you, but you have to let him go." So they take Buttercup, but the Count then still takes Wesley to the pit of despair to be tortured. And as he's being tortured, he notices that the Count has 6 fingers on his right hand right before he gets knocked out. So he realizes that this is the 6-fingered man that Inigo is pursuing. Cut to the Prince Humperdinck and Buttercup, who's threatening to take her own life if he forces her to marry him. And he promises that he's going to find Wesley for her, but then kind of reveals his actual plan, which is he wants to start a war with the neighboring group, but he can't. He needs a reason to, so he's going to accuse them of killing Buttercup, and that he had secretly hired Vizzini to kill her. But then, of course, Wesley had intervened in the entire thing. Fezzik is then ordered to clear out the thieves' forest, but he ends up finding Inigo, and they realize sort of the situation, what's going on, and that they need to go and help Wesley at the castle. Buttercup then sort of comes to her senses and realizes that, of course, Humperdinck did not release Wesley, and she calls him a coward. He then imprisons her. Inigo and Fezzik find Wesley in the pit of despair, and he is almost dead, but not quite. And he is almost dead, so they take him to Miracle Max. This is played by Billy Crystal, and he steals the show. He's not all the way dead. He's just mostly dead, which is, it's just this really funny scene, him and Carol Kane. Like, you just have to watch it. It's kind of like the highlight for me of the movie in terms of just the funny back and forth dialogue between the two of them. They're able to revive Wesley, but kind of not all the way. He's like awake, but he's slowly regaining his strength. So he's not really that useful. And my favorite dialogue is like the back and forth between Wesley and Inigo. They have A on the sword fight and then B in this little scene while they're trying to rescue Buttercup from the castle. They then get into the castle. Inigo confronts the Count, and there's just this really funny moment where they're like kind of face to face, and Inigo does some sword tricks, and it kind of looks like the Count might do something, and then he just turns and runs, and it chases him through the castle. They have a little bit of a duel. And then Inigo is wounded, but manages to kill the Count. And Buttercup is still imprisoned, and she decides that without her Wesley, there's no reason for her to live, and she's about to throw herself out the window when Wesley manages to save her. Prince Humperdinck then kind of comes in. They have a bit of a duel, but Wesley gets him to surrender. Then all of them meet up and they find Fezzik, who has gotten them horses. They all jump out of the window and ride off they all ride off together. Wesley bestows the title of the Dread Pirate Roberts on Inigo. And then Wesley and Buttercup share one last kiss. We then cut. Damn, I don't know why this part wants to make me cry. So they cut back to the book. In the real life of the grandfather and the grandson, and the grandson asks his grandpa to read if he can come over and read it again tomorrow. And the grandpa says, "As you wish," which of course is, oh my God, guys, I am not emotionally well right now. Jesus. Which of course is just his way of saying, "I love you." And I think that's beautiful. And I think anybody who's got like a boomer man in their life that has a real hard time saying that, it's beautiful when they get to let it out. Tell people you love them. It's very important. Let it out so that they don't watch Princess Bride and bawl. Yeah, that's The Princess Bride. What a great movie. Highly recommend it. I showed it to my husband for the first time. He loved it. It was a staple part of my childhood. If you haven't seen it, please, please, please go watch it. And remember to, in all this dark, don't lose your humanity. Don't lose sight that we are all in this together. Don't lose sight of the fact that these are imaginary lines. So even if somebody is here, guaranteed they're just trying to do the right thing for their family, for their kids. And also, don't let a sex offender reality TV star convince you that it is someone trying to seek a better life that's the violent sex offender. Trump, babe, it's you. The call's coming from inside the house. The call is coming from inside the house, you fucking dumbass President Cankles McTaco tits, as Jennifer Welch would say. Anyway, don't let them break you. Don't let the muggles get you down, folks. We got this. Don't let them break your hope. Watch things like The Princess Bride make you feel good. Then continue to stand on business. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope everybody has a good week. Don't lose hope.